have dropped over 40 nukes in Modern Warfare 3, and I'm going to be showing you my top 5 favorite weapons to be using right now. The first one being the MCW. This is one of the best ARs in the game. All the pro players are using this gun right now, so I do recommend you guys to add a suppressor. This is going to hide you from the radar, and then the enemies aren't going to know where you're at. Say you don't really care about that though, then I would add the TR4LR compensator. This is going to eliminate all the horizontal recoil on the weapon. Yes, it does bring down the damage range, but we are going to be using a attachment to mitigate that con. For the underbarrel, add the hand stop. This is going to add a lot of mobility, allowing you to strafe around their map and make it so the enemies have a little bit of a harder time hitting you, and you can fire your gun after sprinting a lot quicker. For the underbarrel, add the hand stop. This is going to severely boost up that mobility and make it a lot harder for the enemies to hit you. Next up, to bring up the damage range, add the high grain rounds. It's going to increase the damage range by about 15%, making this thing kill 15% quicker at range. For the magazine, this is personal preference. If you want to increase the range, I would add the cyclone barrel, or if you want to add a optic, I would add the MK reflector, but in this case I do prefer to run a magazine, which that one is going to be the 40 round mag. And lastly, to mitigate the cons that we are getting with the high grain rounds, go ahead and throw on the RB Claw PSL grip. It's going to add a lot of recoil control with basically having no cons, which if you guys want to take a screenshot, here you guys go, and in game this thing is a complete beam. I do have some other very good builds, and so if you want to see another very good MCW build, I would look up Cbass MCW and you will find some great ones. And for the class, it's going to be the same across every single loadout. I'm going to be running a Renetti as my secondary, which is the best secondary in the game. For the vest, I'm usually going to be running the demolition vest, so then I can run 2 Semtexes, and then they actually do replenish. Same with that stim, making the game feel like BO4. I got the assault gloves, covert sneakers, and the EOD padding. For the next weapon I want to go over, this is going to be the SVA, which is the AN94, and it actually fires the first 2 bullets a little bit quicker, so if you do want this thing to kill very quick, make sure you hit those first 2 shots. For the first attachment, we are going to be adding the Saber compensator. This is going to eliminate all the horizontal recoil off the weapon. Yes, we are losing damage range, but we are going to be adding a attachment to mitigate that con, which the attachment that we're going to be adding is the precision barrel. It's going to severely boost up that damage range. Yes, we are losing a little bit of our mobility, but the base mobility of this gun is already super good, so it shouldn't really matter. Next up, add the vertical grip. This is going to increase the ADS speed plus give a little bit of recoil control, overall making this gun feel a lot better and overall easy to use. For the next attachment, add the skeletal vertical grip. This is going to add some mobility as well as some recoil control, overall making the weapon feel a lot better. Next up, we got the 45 round mag. Again, if you do want to run a optic, I would take off the 40 round mag, or I would take off the rear grip, which is going to be the next attachment, but this magazine is going to allow you to kill so many more enemies. Yes, we are losing mobility, but it's really not that much. Which the underbarrel that we are going to be adding is the demo grip. This is going to add a lot of recoil control, overall making the weapon so much easier to use. Yes, we are losing aiming idle sway, but we are getting a big increase to the firing idle sway, which is astronomically more important than just the basic aiming idle sway. Here is the screenshot in case you guys want to take one. What you guys could also do instead of taking off the magazine is take off the vertical grip, and then you can add an optic, which the optic I recommend you guys to always run is going to be the MK3 reflector. And then if you guys do want to see this in game, you guys are going to see this thing has astronomically no recoil, super easy to use, and kills the enemies very quick. For the next class, this is going to be the Rival 9, which is the best SMG in the game. You're going to be seeing all the pro players running this SMG, which the attachment that they are going to be running for the muzzle is going to be the Purifier muzzle brake, which is going to eliminate all the horizontal recoil off the weapon. Since the muzzle is bringing down the damage range, you might want to add the clear shot barrel. This is going to increase the damage range by a ton. I see a lot of players running this barrel, but for me and a lot of other pro players, we like to run the fire starter barrel. This one's going to severely increase the mobility, allowing you to get around the map very quickly. Yes, we are losing a little bit of our recoil control, but there's going to be no recoil, you'll see. Especially when we add the vertical grip, this is going to add a lot of recoil control plus add a lot of mobility, which is why I say if you want, you can run that damage range barrel, since the vertical grip is going to be giving us a lot of mobility. For the next attachment, just to add a little bit more recoil control, overall making the weapon a lot more stable, I do recommend you guys to add the Rival Vice assault grip. And lastly, for recoil control, add the close quarters assault stock. This is going to eliminate all the recoil on the weapon. And if you guys do want a screenshot of the class, here you guys go. And then when I go into this firing range, you guys are going to see this thing's got nasty recoil in a good way. Like, you can use this thing up to long range. If you do want a little bit, okay, a little bit I already use at long range, but it is an SMG. You guys are going to see at close range, you are going to be beaming like crazy. For the next gun that we're going to be going over is the DG58, which is a one burst melt machine. This thing is so good it actually got banned from competitive play. That being said, for the muzzle to make this thing very broken, go ahead and add the X10 ported. This is going to eliminate a lot of the recoil in the weapon, allowing you to get more one burst up to long range, which that muzzle is going to bring down the mobility. So to bring the mobility back up, make sure you add the hand stub under barrel. This is going to increase the mobility by a ton. Next up, add the LS18 barrel. This is going to increase that damage range again, allowing you to get more one burst up to medium and long range. This thing's crazy as long as you hit your shots, and with this build it should be very easy to hit your shots, which the iron sights up to medium and long range are a little bit wonky to use, and so I do recommend you guys to add the slate reflector. But if you don't mind the iron sights, then I would add the FSS OLEV laser or the 40 round mag. And lastly, to add a lot of recoil control, go ahead and add the Varnanus steady grip. This is going to add a lot of recoil control. Yes, we're losing a little bit of sway, but that recoil control is going to allow you to get way more one burst. And here's the screenshot for the DG58. When I do go into the firing range, you guys are going to see this thing has basically no recoil, and you can almost one burst up the long range. If you do hit the headshots, it's going to be obviously, it's going to do a little bit more damage, and so I just recommend just to spam out the trigger until the enemy is dead. Battle rifle, definitely the best battle rifle in the game. So for the muzzle to keep yourself off the radar, add the Shadow Strike suppressor. Next up, add the Wolverine Respiratory barrel. This is going to increase that damage range, making it take less shots at range. Yes, we are losing a little bit of our mobility, but we are also getting a little bit more mobility, allowing us to run around the map and find more enemies. Next up, add the Wolverine Respiratory barrel. This is going to severely increase that damage range, plus we are going to get a little bit of mobility, which you don't typically see with the barrels. But we are losing sprint to fire speed, so we are going to be adding the skeletal vertical grip. This is going to boost up that mobility, including that sprint to fire speed, making it so you can really rush with the weapon. Next up, since the base ammo count is only 20, I always found myself running out of ammo, so I add the 30 round mag, and this is kind of a must on this weapon. And lastly, add the STT-88 grip. This is going to increase that recoil control, making this thing a little bit easy to use at range. One thing that you guys could do is take off the vertical grip, and then you can add a laser, the FSS OLE laser. You can add the high grain rounds, or you can add a optic, which the optic I recommend is going to be the MK3 reflector, but I found that this weapon was a little bit hard to use when I did add an optic. I don't know why, but it is so much easier just to use the iron sights, and see what I mean about the honey badger from Ghost. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button, and if you want to get better at Call of Duty, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers.